Hello, everyone, and welcome to Got Thrones, a Game of Thrones podcast. I am your host, Alexandra August, and with me, as ever, is my co-host, Johnny Kolazinski.
Hi, everybody. Still getting used to being on video.
It's a lot more work.
Smiles politely.
Smiles politely underneath the makeup I didn't used to have to put on, but no, it's really fun. We're enjoying this and hope you guys are enjoying our return, our reawakening, our, we're like the White Walkers now because we came back to life.
I am the pastiest of walkers.
Oh, such sparkling blue eyes as you stare into the computer screen. Man, we're so lucky. I'm so grateful.
We're also so dang close to the beginning of Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
We are. It is less than a week. And I can't stop thinking of like how much time it's been since Game of Thrones ended. And Game of Thrones ended in 2018. And that just feels, I mean, same president, so long ago.
We were such sweet summer children.
Sweet summer children. We didn't, oh man, God. What kind of summer children are we going to be? Like, I don't want to think about it. When the Winds of Winter drops, what are we going to, oh man. So today, since we are like knocking on the door of a new Game of Thrones series, one that is promising to be different than the other two before it, at least in its scope and its perspective, we have decided to dedicate this episode of Got Thrones to a very thorough rundown, to quote Idris Elba on The Office, a rundown of the cast and crew more or less that we're going to be spending the next 6 weeks with. So I think for the first part, Johnny and I are going to chat about some of the folks on the writing staff and the production. And then we are going to scoot on over to the cast and characters because there are some really exciting characters that we're excited to dig in a little bit more on, as well as some actors that both Johnny and I are really excited to see in this world.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've talked a bit about the characters and why we will always love any Baratheon that's actually a Baratheon. But there are also a lot of people in this production team and cast that we're really excited to see, and not just Baylor. Many.
Guys, I just listen. I know I'm gonna be like just a wash in cuteness for Dexter Soul, but Bertie Carvel just. I don't know. I Baylor might be the character I'm looking forward to the most, just because I'm enjoying like the good dad energy right now. But before we get to casting characters, this really seems like Game of Thrones doing more of what it did with House of the Dragon, which is pulling from the Game of Thrones writers' room as well as adding some exciting new faces. Why don't you, Johnny, tell me some of the stuff that we've kind of uncovered about the showrunner Ira Parker?
Yeah. Okay, so the showrunner is named Ira Parker, and other than quotes about the show, he's kind of hard to pin down. It's always fun when somebody doesn't have a wiki. So he did work on House of the Dragon, but as far as things that I know better, it's The Nevers, which was a short-lived Joss Whedon series, and The Last Ship, which isn't something I watched, but is still really up my alley.
Yeah, what's interesting to me and what's interesting in a couple of the writers in this room is that they all have comedy chops. And I thought it was a really interesting, I just read a story about Ira Parker being one of the first group of writers that Pamela Adlon brought on to better things after Louis C.K. parted ways with that. And they were both she and Louis C.K. wrote that together. There wasn't a writer's room. It was pretty non-traditional in that way. And Pamela's an actress, so she'd never hired a writer's room before. So I don't know, it just stuck out to me that he would have been somebody, along with a handful of other people, that she chose to help her make this show. I don't know, he seems, this all feels like a very considered choice.
Yeah. And his trajectory is pretty quick. His first producing credit is only in 2015.
And so he was a writer on House of the Dragon and was given this opportunity and seems to have really been excited to get in bed with all of it. As anybody would be, I would think.
And I've been reading since I didn't have a lot of background biographical stuff to go on. I've been reading a lot of interviews and things, and his relationship with George R. R. Martin is
Tell me,
pretty encouraging.
yeah, tell me more about this.
So we've talked a little bit about how George was not always on board with the changes and things that Hot D was making.
Very good saying that.
That's what I'm here for. And meanwhile, Parker has been talking about the development process for Night of the Seven Kingdoms and how he has been spending a lot of one-on-one time with George, much like D&D did at the beginning of Game of Thrones, talking about how he was getting notes from George R. R. Martin. And a quote that I liked was George Parker said, "I've effed some things up, and he's told me, and I pulled back and rethought, but we have a wonderful relationship."
Such a dream. When I was reading about how he went to Santa Fe to like hang out with George and Lev Grossman and like a couple of other fantasy authors, and like what like I my favorite people are the people like Vince Gilligan who get to have these incredible experiences, and are just like all they are is like kind of quietly grateful because that's how good it was. And I don't know, I haven't engaged with Ira Parker in any kind of way, but he seems kind of like he's sort of a guy who would really appreciate getting, first draft notes from George R. R. Martin while getting to sit at a table with a bunch of other artists and
Yeah.
anybody. What a dream!
And I don't want to like misrepresent it and say it's like a mentor-mentee relationship because we're going to talk about that in like 15 minutes. But George R. R. Martin is someone who does really like to be a mentor. I think one of the reasons that we don't have Winds of Winter yet is and keep getting things like wild cards is because if George is being an editor on a short story anthology, he gets to support all of these writers that are up and coming as opposed to, you know, sit down and just do the thing he's been doing for 30 years.
Such a like as somebody, I don't know, there's one of the things I like about being of service to others, other than when I'm in a position to do it. When I'm in a position to do it in a creative way, then I just like being a person who can say yes to creatives who only ever get told no like 99% of the time. So that's a wonderful blessing. But like also it's nice to be of service because I know it's free of guilt and there's nothing wrong giving of yourself to others without an expectation of a return, even if it takes up time that you could be spending to do it, even if there's a side effect of procrastination.
Are you sure you live in Los Angeles?
I don't know. I like to think of the reason of the delay, I suppose, or the time betwixt us and getting Wentz or any new material from him is that he's just simply too generous. I'm not like, as I worry, a little tortured by this behemoth. George is gonna be okay. I love you either way. So it's important. I worry that George isn't feeling bad. I worry about George. Um,
Again, as we were preparing for the episode, we were comparing our parents' ages and George and
they're all in a line. They're just really close to one another. One of the things that I am really looking forward to at Night of the Seven Kingdoms is the fact that it's short and sweet. And one of the outside of that, just putting it within the bandwidth levels of Johnny and myself to podcast about and, add a new element to our show a little bit. Also, I like the fact that there aren't a ton of writers in this room. It looks like on credited episodes that we know there's a total of about five, including Ira Parker, and he's credited on all five episodes that Wiki has information for, along with T. McKell, who used to be Gurm's former writing assistant, Aziz Barnes, who is a poet and who wrote for Rap Shit, which is an awesome show and you should watch it. Wildly different vibes from anything Game of Thrones, so that makes me excited. And then a woman named Annie Julia Wyman, who I don't know if she's a current professor at UCSB, but she was, and she's a TV writer, and she created The Chair, which was that Sandra Oh academia show. And if you spent any time in academia, that show was really fun. Um, and then Hiram Martinez, who is, from what I could tell, has a pretty traditional film and TV background. All of these folks look like they have like interesting perspectives, and it just and like things that are not necessarily straight out from a fantasy, and that excites me because this we're told to be getting a lot of new perspectives than what we normally see on Game of Thrones. So I'm excited for this to feel of Westeros, but have such a distinct tonal feel.
Yeah. One thing that we've talked about in previous episodes of the podcast is that we were kind of hoping for a different dynamic, a different viewpoint. And in an interview, Ira Parker mentioned that one thing that he promised George R. R. Martin was that this was not going to be a show about the aristocracy. Can I bust out another Ira Parker quote?
Please.
He was talking about the history, where we are between House of the Dragons and Game of Thrones. And what he had to say was that this little backwater tourney at Ashford is something that the Targaryens would never have lowered themselves to before, but now they have to because they rule without dragons by meeting the people.
They
So,
actually, and that's something that does really, because when you think about Game of Thrones and you're trying to think of point of view characters that are not the nobility, I struggle to think of one. Like Davos. I think is Davos the first one?
until he becomes of the nobility. Davos is not the first one. He's the first one that is not a prologue
Oh,
character
right.
that
Yeah,
dies.
that's right.
At least that I can think of. Don't quote me on this.
And like it's not like I missed that in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is very much about scale. It's about all these moving pieces. I think that's the fun part of it. But yeah, it's just like a wild and then like House of the Dragon is just Targaryens forever. Only Targaryens,
Yeah,
incestuous Targaryens making more Targaryens out of Targaryens. Why are they all
yeah.
crazy?
House of the Dragons is the Gilded Age to Game of Thrones Downton Abbey.
Okay. I like that. And then like maybe
It's a pretty good quote for somebody who never watched either show.
I don't know, Game of Thrones and Down Abbey doesn't I don't know that those comps work, but I'm gonna give it to you.
Thanks. Point me.
Game Downton Abbey would be so bloody. There's so many people would die. I think Lady Mary still survives. Like I think she's the Sansa comp, but like both her parents. Sorry.
All I'm saying is we've never seen Maggie Smith behead a guy.
Oh man, I know she's passed, but
I know. It's what could have been.
what could have been murderous Maggie Smith? Um. Oh man, my favorite version of Maggie Smith might be Ian McClellan doing Maggie Smith on SNL.
Yes. Yes. This is going to be in the show notes if this makes it to the show.
You gotta watch it. What do you call it? He's mad about Judy Dench. Calls her fat. It's terrible, like, but it's just a really good impression. It's Jimmy Fallon is doing Weekend Update, and Serene McKellen kisses him as Maggie Smith. Cool. So should
This
we
has
get to
been
the
Got
cast?
Thrones, a Weekend Update podcast.
A general TV podcast. Yeah. Should we scoot on to the cast and characters? Can we start talking? Do you have anything else to
Yeah.
say about kind of the production arm of this, or?
I mean, I will probably drop in more Ira Parker quotes as we go.
So well
Let's be
spoken,
honest
Pat.
here.
So
I'm
well
I'm a
spoken,
writing
Pat.
guy, and I'm excited about the writers.
So first off is Peter Claffey as Sir Duncan Dunk the Tall, Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall.
Hmm.
And should come as a surprise to no one that this guy used to play a lot of rugby. Um, and I have it here that he goes into the big and tall pile of Game of Thrones actors. Anyway, Dunk. Is he who you expected him to look like?
Yes and no. I I don't know what I expected, but I expected a little dumber looking.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Not that
mm-hmm.
Dunk is dumb. but I
You
expected a little bit of, you would expect this person to bumble through things, and then he
yeah.
surprises you.
It's
And
not that we think Dunk is dumb, it's that other people think look at Dunk. And that feels like the
exactly.
impression that superficially other people have of him. Or sorry, but go on, Johnny.
Yeah. And instead we have superpowered Brennan Lee Mulligan. Like
Brendan Lee Mulligan again?
from Dimension 20 and Dropout TV.
Oh, okay.
He's just, what if we gave Brennan Lee Mulligan human growth hormone? He's a very good looking guy. He is big and tall. He is a very broad man. But I wouldn't look at him and say, oh, this is a guy I assume is a dunce.
Yeah, yeah. When I think of Dunk, I think I always just think of Sword in the Stone because of that's just that George lives in that voice for me a little bit. And so I for some reason I always think of Kay in that movie, who is Arthur's like old, like he's Arthur is Kay's dad's ward, and so Kay is like his bullied older brother, and he's an like he kind of has like a protruding forehead. For some reason, that's what Dunk looks like in my head. And or like maybe kind of closer to Hodor, just because we're sort of thinking that maybe they're related along with Brett. But yeah, I can kind of he looks a little bit like a normal guy. Um,
That's actually what it is I don't buy him related to Hodor.
Yeah. Not that like and like maybe that's good too. Like what I like about this series as well is that it's good casting, but it's not the casting isn't doing all the work for us just yet. And so I'm excited to I'm kind of excited to see this guy move about a little bit and just see how he is within the context of the series.
I said I'm going to be pulling Ira Parker quotes whenever I can. And he said about Peter Claffey, there's no one else that's this size, this age, this good who keeps getting exponentially better. If I could give advice to anyone, it's to only hire ex college athletes. They will never be outworked.
It's a good point. I like
It
that.
is.
It's interesting too that I feel like this show and Heated Rivalry and other shows of its ilk, as in like shows about either sports or people who look a certain way, trying to find the necessary kind of like physicality with someone who can also act is not easy. In the case of Heated Rivalry, it's a little different, but I like hearing like intimations that like, okay, we did find somebody who matched this hyper specific physical profile and they are a very good performer, which always feels very lucky. Doesn't always work out that way.
I'm going to go back to a reference for both of you that listened to the Disco Trek when we were talking about Star Trek early on in season 2. And Gregory Peck, Ethan Peck's grandfather, was literally cast in his first role as he was walking to rowing practice because somebody said, hey, instead of doing that, why don't you be in Midsummer Night's Dream?
Oh man, can you imagine if Gregory Peck was your coxswain? He's probably too tall. Can you imagine
That would,
dating
yeah, that
Gregory
would
Peck
sink the
on the
boat.
crew
I
in
was a
like
coxswain.
college? Oh, what a dreamboat. Anyway, and so that's yeah, that's Peter Claffey. Looks cool. He's looked amazing in the trailers. And then his small friend Dexter Soul Ansel, and I'm not sure if
This
I'm
little
pronouncing
guy,
that correctly. He's so small.
just little
He's
guy.
so bald at the same time. I just so everyone. This is Dexter Soul Ansel is playing Aegon Targaryen, called Egg by his older brother Aemon. I know his cuteness is coming, and I'm gonna be a real sucker because my nephew is 8, who is the same age as Egg is supposed to be. So, I and like also I'm a little joy hoarder, and since this is I know, and sorry spoilers all, we know that Egg is gonna survive the series at the very least. Well, we don't know that, but like we know that Egg is gonna survive at least to adulthood and have some
It's
kids. So
likely that he will survive since he is Aegon the Unlikely.
Aegon. Oh. And like he seems to have like a relatively happy childhood. And so I'm just really gonna like can't wait to immerse myself in that. And this like literally a sweet summer child walking around Westeros and
Raising my hand for a second, he seems
comparatively
to
a good
have a
childhood.
relatively happy childhood once the books start, which is the first time this has ever been said about anything in the world of Ice and Fire, because he
It's the
literally
book
ran
start.
away and decided to hang out with a unhoused person rather than hang out with his
A
family.
transient person, a freelancer,
Yeah,
literally, because
yeah.
he's a freelance. That's where that comes from.
Lance. I
Mm, 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 mm. I will say, I also have to like hammer down again. This is that just kind of a hammy way of saying I'm excited to see Westeros through the eyes of a child. I'm excited for a little bit of innocence in this world, and it is kind of funny to me how I don't know. Egg is basically placed in foster care. Like he runs away, and then and his dad is like, "Listen, I just can't do this anymore."
like maybe Ned and Robert ended up with John Aaron because of Westeros CPS, but this is more of a I'm gonna drop this kid off at the firehouse
May did
after
not
sending my
take.
last kid to the nunnery. Aemon, who got
Oh
sent
yeah,
to be a maester.
that's true. Like Egg clearly has a decent relationship with his older brother Aemon. We see Aemon talk about that in Game of Thrones and this really beautiful kind of synchronicity. But Aemon has to go live in Old Town, and I guess there's no place for Egg in Old Town. I hope they get to visit him. I hope they do get to go to Old Town one of these days and see Aemon.
I
We should anyway. Dexter's too old to have like too many outside of a Netflix Christmas movie, but he was the young Coriolanus Snow in the Hunger Games prequel, which I enjoyed. So hats off to him.
yeah.
Meanwhile, my favorite bit of casting on this series, I don't know if it's gonna
Oh,
be
we're
my
gonna
favorite
fight.
character. Sam Spruill is Prince Maekar Targaryen, who I don't know if you've seen like literally any of the key art for Maekar, he's a real smiley kind of guy. But also, if you are a big Fargo fan like me, you will have seen Sam Spruill on the last season of Fargo, which was my favorite season because it was the kind of adaptation and sort of reimagining of the Fargo movie. And so Sam Spruill's character is like the assassin, the Swedish guy who works with like Steve Buscemi's character in the Fargo movie to kill and kidnap the Gunderson wife. And that kind of sort of happens here, but his character is drawn out through so much. It has such a more interesting trajectory towards the end, and like the way it ties up in the end is brilliant. I that's Everybody should watch that season of Fargo. First of all, it might be my favorite John Hamm role. It's absolutely one of my favorite, is it not Jennifer Jason Leigh roles. Like, just watch it anyway. But Sam Spruill's great on it, and he is kind of is like like sort of plays a lot of similar like assassin strong. He was in a Kurt Sutter show called The Last Executioner, The Bastard Executioner. So this is like very much his vibe. But I was just really excited about him. So you should all watch Fargo anyway.
So in our show notes, I saw this guy was in Fargo. I haven't watched Fargo. I've seen the movie, and all of a sudden, I got really freaking excited.
And yeah, Prince Maekar. I guess yeah. If we're gonna do Sesame Street comps, he's definitely an Oscar the Grouch kind of vibe. Take that as you will. He's really not happy about being here at the tournament. You get the sense that like he would much rather be at the time when they had dragons and the dragons kind of got in the way of them mixing with the common folk.
Well, yeah, and who among the Targaryens, other than the next one we're going to speak of, did not feel that way?
This is fair.
And also, I think we are seeing more and more as we see House of the Dragon, more Targaryens, we really see the coin flip of brilliance or madness.
Yeah, two
And
Targaryens on a table in front of you, and you could you can really
yeah.
see those odds at work.
And Makar, I think, just was the one coin that landed on his side. And he's just kind of douchey.
Yeah, he's just no fun.
Yeah.
Kind of a drag.
Yeah. Uh,
Which, like, to be fair, I don't mind if my leader is kind of a drag, but
this in
that's
the beginning of 2026. My God, please
please
give us
boring
someone
and
boring.
unhappy.
Bobby Baratheon was boring. Give
Oh,
us Bobby Baratheon again.
I need Bobby
Please. Give
B.
us Bobby B. We miss Bobby B.
Bobby B trusted his heads of department. Bobby B knew how to delegate. Bobby B knew how to have a good time, ask for help when he needed it.
Bobby B's Grand
Anyway.
Maester didn't have a brain worm.
No. Anyway, this is not a political podcast. Uh,
But it absolutely is. It's
uh
2026. By God, let's stand by our convictions.
yeah, yeah. Which should have been clear before now, but if they are, but just so you know, uh, we fall on a pretty obvious side of the current American political spectrum. On to Birdie. Should we talk about Bertie?
Oh, Bertie Breakspear.
But I am. I went on and just went on a big like excited rant about Sam Spruill, but also the more I learn about Bertie Carvel, who plays Prince Baylor Breakspear Targaryen, I can't wait. Like I can't wait. He just looks so delightful. I feel like he's like Arthur Treacher, who was like an old English like early movie star. I think I don't know. I saw him in a Shirley Temple movie that I owned when I was a kid, and he just like feels like he had a history in vaudeville, and maybe he like if you asked him would do a little dance for you.
Was
Um,
Arthur Treacher also the Midwest Fish and Chips Company?
yes, Arthur Treachers.
Okay. Are they related? Let's find
I
out.
think
Someone,
so.
I've been excited about talking about Bertie Carvel since Alex sent me the original show notes, and I just added more and more theater to it.
Also,
Um,
shout out for having the last name of an ice cream company, of an ice cream store.
like,
Like, could be worse associations.
yeah, he's gonna do well in the Midwest. So let's talk about the things that you were excited about in his resume, and then we can talk about the things that I added to his resume.
Yeah, like, okay, so I like Baylor Breakspear, period. So I was probably going to be, I don't know that it was going to be too difficult to cast somebody that I was going to be very interested in. But in addition to just being a silver fox, this man won a Tony for playing the Trunchbull in the Matilda musical. And that is not a rare time, that somebody was nominated for a cross-gender role. Yeah, and he was nominated. He did so well that he won. And
Yeah,
I think it's a marker. He's got range.
it it's basically this role and Mary Sunshine from Chicago that get recognized at all
Yeah,
for
yeah.
and I love Matilda the musical because I love Tim Minchin. I'm sure he's going to get canceled in the next 3 weeks or so. I've been waiting for it. But so I got really excited about Baylor Breakspear Targaryen, played by Bertie Carvel, and I like political dramas like The West Wing, like In the Loop. They are my thing. Anyway, he played Tony Blair in The Crown. In the past 5 years, though, he has also played Rupert Murdoch, the founder of Fox News, in a show called Inc., and he played Donald Trump in 2022 in a play called The 47th. Started in England, only was in England, but it was in 2022, predicted Biden dropping out and him running against Kamala Harris, and predicted an assassination attempt. Only in this case, it's his driver crashes a car into something.
God, I wonder if there's a file on him. Can we talk? Can we call him Baylor Breakspear Targaryen? Like Prince Baylor Breakspear Targaryen? Like that's his hyphenate.
Until we
Hi,
have a good nickname, yeah.
I'm Ben Breakspear Targaryen.
Say Ben.
Yes.
I don't know that Ben.
All right,
I don't know that not Ben.
we'll feel it out. But Breakspear
Yeah,
Targaryen, it's a hyphenate. I'm not just Baylor. I'm Baylor Breakspear Targaryen, and don't you forget it.
that's not his attitude.
I know it's really not. He's great, guys. Baylor is just like a
Yeah,
boring. He's just not an asshole.
spoilers. He's not an asshole.
Anyway, so Baylor is. I like that we get a lot of him. I like that Dunk gets to have what I can't like some of those conversations I can't wait to have.
Again, going back to Ira Parker, his quote when he was talking about this role was that the decent guy can be a little bland. So we needed an actor at the level of Bertie Carvel, brackets me, someone who can play Trump and Tony Blair and Rupert Murdoch, and bracket,
And
to
a
create
trunch
something
ball.
interesting for us. He doesn't have to shout or flaunt his power, unlike Trunchbull. You just believe it.
It's Yeah, I like seeing leadership like that at all times. I think we can use more examples like that. Yeah, we're looking forward to Baylor Breakspear Dash Targaryen. TM. Um, that Baylor's son is here, but he's Valar Targaryen. We're not going to talk about him. He does not figure over much into the story, but he is present. He does compete. He's got some fancy armor. But more prominent is Maekar's son, Prince Aerion Brightflame Targaryen. So we got Breakspear Targaryen and Brightflame Targaryen. And Aerion is somehow less palatable than his dad.
Yeah.
Um, Aerion, ugh. Finn Bennett's a great actor. Finn Bennett was on, if you're an HBO slapstick fan and you were really excited for True Detective, Nate Country starring Jodie Foster, you would have seen Finn Bennett as her kind of young protege in a very interesting story. So maybe you should watch that too. But Ariane,
I loved True Detective season 1 and then watched most of True Detective season 2.
the same.
And I did not watch season 4.
Ariane Brightflame is exactly the kind of guy who would give himself the nickname Brightflame. Just that's all I have to say about that.
Does he have it tattooed over his shoulder?
I bet he does.
Like in old English letters.
He's gonna get one in Pentos. Got some great tattoo artists in Pentos. Sorry, guys, I have a stiff shoulder. Um, and now we get to move on to another really exciting character and actor. Do you want to take this one away, Johnny?
Daniel Ings,
Not
who
you,
is
just he's
playing
gonna criticize.
Sir Lionel, quote, the Laughing Storm Baratheon, unquote. And he did not give himself this name.
No, he didn't.
Like this is just everyone
Everyone
knows
agrees.
that he is the Laughing Storm. Some say he's the storm, some say he laughs, and here we are. Do I know anything about this portrayal of the character? No. Do I believe it 100%? Yes.
This is not a mysterious. The vibe to Sir Lionel the Laughing Storm Baratheon is pretty easy to nail down. He is a good time. He is the
Yeah.
inverse of Maekar. Sir Lionel
Yeah.
the Laughing Storm, in the story and clearly in this characterization, is not about to let, I don't know, assholes ruin a good day. He has a good attitude. I would work with Sir Lionel the Laughing Storm. I would hire the Laughing Storm. He could come into my office and say, I'm Lionel the Laughing Storm Baratheon, and set down a briefcase, and I'd be like, you know what, tell me more. Say more.
He would be the best Lyft driver you ever had.
Mhm.
He is everything that Robert Baratheon wanted to be.
Yeah. When I remember reading this story, like he is kind of like, aw, this is kind of the way what a Baratheon should be.
I mean, who has a better story than Lionel the Laughing Storm Baratheon?
I think if you manage to have a good attitude or a positive attitude in Westeros and are like aged past and like live past the age of 40, start bottling that. I don't know. And then Daniel Ings is the actor who plays him. You might not know his name, but you definitely know his face. He's been all over TV and he's got such a distinctive, like English rakish smile. Like he's perfect casting. I think there's a lot of actors who could have made a good meal out of this, and he's going to do a great job. Everyone's
I'm
going to
gonna.
want to have sex with Lionel. Lionel gets laid a lot. Lionel's got a lot of kids.
Unfortunately, they're only half-hour episodes, so we don't get Sexpedition.
We need to do Love Island, Lionel the Laughing, Love Island, the Laughing Storm.
You know who would be into that? Ira Parker.
Ah,
Here's my Ira Parker quote. He's got that early Al Pacino dangerousness where he can go from a normal, calm conversation to something quite sinister very quickly. George loves him too. I'm upset we don't get to do the Lionel Baratheon spinoff.
yet,
Yet.
yet.
Yet. But
Vertical
there
dramas
are.
are pretty big right now. They're a billion-dollar industry in China. So like, let's not, you know.
It, and there are 3 to 4 kings between now and Game of Thrones, depending on who you're asking.
That's
So
true.
maybe we get it.
Chino was really hot when he was younger, so that's a good comp. This all makes sense. He's gonna, yeah, he's the sex bomb of the series. We're gonna see him with a hooker at some point. And for the next guy, I think that he is like the guy that the Laughing Storm is really annoyed that he has to like go out with when he goes on like a bachelor party in Vegas, is Henry Ashton as Prince Darren the Drunken Targaryen, which rhymes kind of, and I like that. Darren the Drunken Targaryen. So this is also one of Maekar's sons. Maekar does not gain a
He's the one he
reputation.
doesn't send away, or has not sent
Yeah,
away yet.
he is one of the ones who runs away though. He
Yeah.
wants to avoid the tournament. He is like a lot of lover, not a fighter vibes from Dayron. From Dayron, a lot of like self-medicating alcoholic vibes here. Henry Ashton, who he looks like did you ever watch Alias?
Yes.
He looks like the angular guy in Alias. He was a villain, not Bradley Cooper. David Anders. Yeah, he looks like
Yes.
Julian
Yeah.
Stark.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's exciting. Um, we don't really know much else about Dayron except he and Egg kind of seem of a piece in terms of their discomfort with their family.
They are yin and yang. Because Dayron is the I'm going to be avoidant. I'm going to drink my way through this family trauma.
Yeah.
And Aegon is I am going to make my own way.
It's like I'm just not going to be here anymore. I have
Yeah.
legs. I'm walk away. I'm setting boundaries. Yeah, Aegon's good at setting boundaries. That is something that Daeron would learn if he like got into recovery. We would hope. So this next guy, I am very excited about. I don't know too much about the actor. Sean Thomas is his name, but I'm really excited for his character, Sir Raymond Fossaway.
Okay.
Ray Fossaway.
Yes.
And we're excited about him because he's the only Fossaway he's got a perfect last name. And like it just great, and he's the only Fossaway worth a damn.
He is just not a piece of shit. The character, not the actor.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no. I Sean Thomas looks like one of the only child actors of this group that's been employed since he was a kid. So I'm excited to see him because I feel like they probably cast somebody with some chops next to Dunk, who's great. Peter Claffey like looks great, but like he doesn't seem as seasoned. And this guy, Sean Thomas, looks like he's going to be a lot of good comic relief and maybe like the Gendry kind of hot pie type vibe.
I'm blanking on the name of the actor. Galen.
Matarazzo.
Is that Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone who's a young person who is very, very experienced can be an amazing supporting character to everyone else who's around him.
I think I'm probably always going to be happy when Ray Fossaway is on the screen. I'm optimistic. There's a lot of nickname possibility here too. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So like,
Alex, I'm going to be honest here. I think we are not yet at the point for nicknames because we haven't seen them yet.
That's true. We haven't. But the more syllables, the more possibilities. And Raymond Fossaway, there's a lot to pick from.
Fossy.
Madonna. Anyway, and then Tansen Crawford, who's got a really, really coincidental name for the character she's playing, Tansel.
The tall.
Tansel Too Tall, which is like just a thing that you would say. Dunk gets to just be the tall, and Tansel has to be too tall because she's a girl. And I think it's adorable that they both get to be tall people who like kind of want to date each other. That's gonna be cute. She's also like the only girl, which is sort of fascinating.
Yeah.
This is not the case in the next two novellas from my recollection, but definitely in the first one.
Well, this novella is very specifically focused on men trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And
In
the
like
only time
sports.
we get away from the focus is when the men attack a woman. So early George R. R. Martin.
So our last guy, the last guy that we're talking about, I'm going to send you, I'm going to text you a picture of him because this is Steve Fossaway, Stefan Fossaway. And I'm going to ask you, does he look like somebody who's going to like ride or die with his friends?
I don't know how to say it's giving Jem'Hadar without being Jem'Hadar.
Steven Fossaway is such a dick. Stefan Fossaway.
I've never seen someone with upside down ears before.
Oh god. Anyway, Edward Ashley is playing Stefan Fossaway. Pardon me. You
And I'm
have to
sure
say it
he's a
that way.
wonderful person.
He's definitely a very good actor. He's been in some really wonderful stuff, including The King, which is one of Timothy Chalamet's first roles, and one of my favorite like Netflix movies originals that they've put out. Anyway, if you like medieval stuff,
Do people listening to the podcast like medieval stuff? I don't know.
I don't have any fun facts about him, but I have in my notes this guy looks like an asshole. Perfect casting.
Yeah. But also, if you see him early on, he's probably fine. He's a great guy.
Yeah, you're gonna love him.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the group of cast and characters that we wanted to cover today. There are like obviously a handful more people that are going to be on this show that we didn't talk about. So um expect those in our recaps to come as they are. And then next week we're working on live streaming capability. We may wind up just recording and getting it out as soon as possible, but we'll keep you posted, but we still haven't really fully gotten our socials back up yet. So if you're listening, thank you and stay tuned. We will have content that goes live Sunday night on all of our podcatchers and on our YouTube.
Absolutely,
So
100%.
thank you guys so much for coming and for coming back. We are excited to have been revived in the grand tradition of zombies on Game of Thrones. Johnny and I are very happy to be back. We hope
And so fun. We
it's so
spent
fun.
an hour and a half preparing for this episode,
We've been
having
on
so
since
much fun.
7 p.m.
I
That's
know, and
9:48.
it is 9:48
Edward,
Pacific
this is
time.
look at this. And we're both happy as clams.
I know. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
We'll see in a few days to talk about the premiere of the next Game of Thrones series in the franchise.
Yep.
Happy New Year. See you soon.
Bye, folks.